Rock and roll, despite having great music, was the base front which propelled drugs and alcohol consumption to skyrocket in America. However, did rock and roll's music and lyrics propel the consumption of drugs and alcohol to increase at the rate that it did? Or was there something else behind the substance abuse epidemic? Could the sole fact that most artists themselves consume drugs and alcohol have influenced Americans to increase their consumption habits by 60%? Who or what is to blame for what is now a substance abuse epidemic? And what would our future look like if the rate continues to increase at the rate that it is, or on the contrary, if the rate comes to a decrease or halt? Rock and roll music is known to be very appealing to the American public during the 1920s through 1960s. However, according to James, what many people don't know or tend to ignore is that rock and roll artists' habits were the main reason why the drug and alcohol consumption rate increased drastically during this time frame. However, rock and roll artists aren't the only ones to blame. The baby boom generation, which grew up listening to rock and roll music, were so influenced by rock and roll that they soon found themselves imitating the lifestyles of rock and roll artists themselves. Corridor Lennon states that during the baby boom generation era, the alcohol and drug consumption rate skyrocketed by 68% and is the main reason why 65% of Americans consume alcohol and drugs today. Did any other outside source influence or cause the baby boom generation to increase their drinking and drug habits? According to Robinson's alcohol increase, television and music exposure was the main reason besides rock and roll that the drug and alcohol consumption increased during the baby boom generation. Due to rock and roll music, which gained tremendous popularity during the baby boom generation, the drug and alcohol consumption rate saw an increase of 28%. Television's lessened censorship also caused the baby boom generation to increase its alcohol and drug usage by 15%. Television and music exposure are also the main reason why drugs and alcohol consumption continue to increase today. Music has never been as violent and drug-oriented as it is today. Drug and alcohol abuse has not only increased tremendously over the past decade, it has also caused tremendous damage to our nation as a whole. According to Cole, America's leading cause of death over the past 6 years has been related to drug and alcohol abuse. The death rate caused by drugs a year is 15%, while the death rate caused by alcohol abuse is 58%. Drug and alcohol abusers aren't the only ones suffering from these deaths. Families of the millions of innocent lives killed by these substance abusers also suffer tremendously. However, deaths aren't the only problem drugs and alcohol bring to this nation. They also cause diseases and sickness. According to Copenhagen, smoking and consuming alcohol increases death from many of the following causes by 89%. Cancer of the lip, oral cavity, pharynx, oesophagus, colon, rectum, liver, larynx, and breast, essential hypertension, coronary heart disease, stroke, cirrhosis, non-cirrhotic chronic liver disease, chronic pancreatitis, and injuries. Cole states that the percentage of Americans consuming alcohol is rising to a percentage that if it continues to increase by the year 2028, approximately 88% of all Americans would be part of this epidemic. This would be chaotic to our nation and devastating and almost impossible to overcome. If this holds true and 88% of all Americans do consume alcohol and drugs by the year 2028, then the death rate per year regarding drugs and alcohol would be 92%. This is an outrageous number that we cannot let happen. Therefore, if we as Americans intervene and try to decrease this problem with the help of the government, America's future would be much brighter. According to Cole, if the drug and alcohol consumption rate decreases by at least 5% over the next couple of years, then by 2028, the rate would be cut in half from the 88% if nothing is done to 44%, which is a huge difference. For further information, you can visit the following websites, which are on the screen. And in conclusion, drugs and alcohol commenced to increase from rock and roll, and this problem that is still ongoing and increasing to this day. Something has to be done to decrease the drug and alcohol rate, which is causing numerous deaths a year, approximately 1,513 deaths a year to be exact. If nothing is done and the drug and alcohol consumption rate continues to increase, by the year 2028, approximately 88% of all Americans will be part of this epidemic. Not only would the rate be quadrupled, but America's reputation will go downhill rapidly if we allow this epidemic to continue increasing. However, on the contrary, if this problem is decreased by at least 5%, then the number would be cut in half to 44%, which is a huge difference. Not to mention the death rate and overdose rate would decrease tremendously as well. I don't know about you, but I would like to live in an environment which is safe and worry-free. Thank you for listening.